Hey, it's Leo. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my April Shout Out Queer Book Reviews. Shout Out is a volunteer-driven, non-monetized digital media outlet that specializes in sharing the news, politics, entertainment, art, and business geared toward the needs and interests of the LGBTQ+ community in the Pacific Northwest in the United States. You can find me and other fabulous queer creators on facebook.com/shoutoutpdx. I have 4 books to share with you today, including my first advanced reader copy, or ARC. It's very exciting. Honestly, I think it was easier for me to figure out my star ratings for this review because I had just completed the reviews and ratings tag by the fabulous Scott and Nell at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, so thanks for that. Even though I was quite a few months late on doing that tag. Oops. Speaking of tags, thank you to everyone who has so far done the hashtag Stand With Trans Kids book tag or expressed interest. I know that several of you have got them in the works. I've been putting them on a playlist. If I've missed you and you're not on that playlist yet or I haven't seen your video, please let me know. I'd love to include you in that. And thank you again to everyone who is standing with trans kids in this or any other way. It is really important and means a lot. With each new video on my channel, I lift up a different nonprofit that's doing good in the world. I'll encourage you to check them out. Like, share, follow, or donate as you are inspired. With this video, I'd like to lift up Amazon Watch. Amazon Watch is a nonprofit that was founded in '96 to protect the rainforest and advance the rights of Indigenous people in the Amazon basin. They partner with Indigenous and environmental organizations in campaigns for human rights, corporate accountability, and the preservation of the Amazon's ecological system. Also, there's a couple of exciting things. In honor of Earth Day, Make It Better Foundation is matching all donations to Amazon Watch, dollar for dollar, up to $10,000 through April 30th. And when I made my donation earlier today, they still had some room to go to reach that $10,000 match goal. So if you are inspired, I'll include that link down below. Also, Credo Mobile is giving them a chance to raise up to $100,000 to empower Indigenous peoples in the Amazon. And so if you're a Credo Mobile user, you can, I guess, vote each month or something. Anyway, so I'll include the link for that if that's something that you participate in. I also wanted to include this photo from Facebook on their Facebook page. April 11th, they said, was a historic day at the Freeland Camp in Brasilia. For the first time in 18 years, a plenary was officially held to discuss the LGBTQIA+ agenda at the camp. And youth from various Indigenous groups came together on the main stage of the Freeland Camp to stand up in defense of the LGBTQIA+ community. So this organization looks pretty awesome. I'm excited to follow what they do. They also have a link, actions that we can take for Earth Day at amazonwatch.org/take-action, which I'll include below. So I'm gonna make a donation, or I've already made the donation, and I encourage you to check them out. All right, I want to start out with a novella that I saw recommended on Cousin at Always Doing's channel. She always has really great recommendations, so I'll link to her video down below, but I also encourage you to check out her channel. She has a reading goal of reading, I believe, at least as many trans authors or more than cis authors this year, so I think that's just fabulous. This book is The Craft of Love by E.E. Ottoman, and E.E. Ottoman is a romance and speculative fiction author who specializes in trans and queer fiction in a historical setting, and he is a queer trans man himself. So The Craft of Love is a book about Benjamin Lewis, who is a respected silversmith and engraver in New York City in the late 1800s, I believe. He is a trans man, but obviously times are different in that period in terms of what is available for transitioning and so forth. He lives with his sister and her family, and one day is going through a chest looking for some fabric and finds some dresses that his mother had made for him to wear. And it's a hard moment for him because his mother wasn't always accepting of him, even though his sister really is. But he decides that he is going to kind of work through that and make a quilt out of these dresses. So he meets this quilt maker who has come to purchase lace from his sister and decides to commission her for a quilt made in part from the fabric of these dresses. The fabric is really beautiful, and again, it's a way for him to maybe find healing about his relationship with his mother. For payment, he offers then to make a silver tea set for the quilt maker. Remember, it's Quincy, because she sells quilts to fine ladies, and then, so they come over to her place and have tea as they talk over the commissions, and so it would be nice for her business as well to have a nicer silver tea set. Anyway, they meet, they have conversations about their projects, and they fall in love. It's a short and sweet romance, and I really enjoyed seeing a story in which there was a trans man who was finding love, as well as this cis woman who was passionate about abolition and unionizing and labor and workers' rights and so forth. So I definitely recommend it if any of these elements interest you. I gave it 4.5 stars, and my only complaint is probably that I wish it were longer so that we could see more of the story and see their relationship develop and maybe how they handled some of the challenges of the labor movement that they started connecting with. Thank you to Kazan for making me aware of this author and this title. And also, I'll link to Shannon at That's So Poe, who also did a great review of this book. Speaking of Kazan at Always Doing, I recently saw that she retweeted a post from Happily Ever Afters for Trans Kids, and there is an opportunity to donate to Magic City Acceptance Academy and Legal Center to protect trans kids in Alabama. And if you donate at least $25 by May 15th, you'll receive an exclusive ebook bundle of 13 books about surviving the odds together. So I'm very excited about that. I went ahead and made a donation to there as well today and already got my ebooks. So I suddenly have 13 more books in my collection, and I'm really excited about that. So thank you, Kazan, for lifting that cause up as well, and for supporting trans kids in Alabama. Okay, the next book is my first advanced reader copy from NetGalley. I'm very excited about this, although this book was already released in May 2021 in the UK, but it has a US release date of May 31st of this year. It is put out by Kensington Books, and it is The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle by Matt Cain. This is a really sweet story about Albert Entwistle, who is a 64-year-old postman in northern England in a small town. He's a gay man who had trauma in his youth about being gay and his family's lack of acceptance of him, as well as some of the laws at the time against being gay. And so he has kept that in the closet for 50 years and has not come out to anyone, and has also pretty much closed himself off to the world in general. Like, he does his job, but he tries to avoid conversations. He doesn't really make friends. He just has his cat, Gracie. He has made his life just kind of focus around going to work, delivering the post, and coming home and being with his cat. At the start of the book, he receives a letter from HR that at his 65th birthday, which is only a few months away, he will have mandatory retirement. So the one thing that in his life has kind of kept him going, which is going out and delivering mail, won't be available to him anymore. And he's really facing a lot of loneliness. And so as he's kind of struggling with grappling with what does that mean for him in his life, he then decides to track down his first boyhood love, George Atkinson. So that's what I knew from reading the back of the book. I really appreciated how the story had Albert reckoning with what it meant for him to have been closeted for 50 years, what that meant for his own sense of self, for his connection or lack thereof to both his neighbors and the gay community, and how he kind of worked through all of that. I will give some trigger warnings. There is a death of an animal and some discussion of infant loss. So if those are things that you would like to avoid, be mindful of that. Also, there are depictions of assault based on homophobia. There are a couple of really sweet storylines with different people that Albert connects with in his community, which I really enjoyed in watching as those developed. And at the end of the book, there are also, it's like an epilogue, there are also snippets of interviews that Matt Cain, the author, had with various men who grew up gay in the 60s and 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and what their experiences were like in terms of, the police raids or the hiding or the ostracization from family and so forth. So I found that to be really powerful as well. I definitely recommend this book to anyone who is interested in a sweet story of second chances, of learning about history, of a story of personal growth and kind of wrestling with identity, and for anyone who enjoys good characters, funny moments, and heartwarming story. I give this one 5 stars. One of the things I like about this book is it really highlights the importance of knowing our history and also connecting with community. And I know that we're facing a lot of, here in the US and possibly lots of places, book bans where both our history, stories about identity, stories about racial injustice that has occurred. All of those are being pulled from school libraries. So I wanted to give a shout out to the Brooklyn Public Libraries. I'm going to link to, and I'll share the news release here. They just launched a new campaign called Books Unbanned to help teens combat the negative impact of increased censorship and book bans in libraries across the country. So it says for a limited time, so I'm not sure how limited it is, but young adults ages 13 to 21 nationwide in the US will be able to apply for a free e-card from the Brooklyn Public Library and unlock access to their extensive collection of ebooks. This is basically a response to all of the attempts to ban books and pull them out of school libraries around the country. The card will be good for 1 year and is designed to complement access to resources that teens have in their local communities. There's a way to apply, and there's a $50 fee normally, but it's waived, and teens are encouraged to share videos, essays, and stories on the importance of intellectual freedom and the impact that book challenges and bans have had on their lives. The library will also make a selection of frequently challenged books available with no holds or wait times for all Brooklyn Public Library card holders, available through the online catalog or the Libby app. These include The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, Tomboy by Liz Prince, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, The 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah-Jones, Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, and Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison. So I'll link that down below. If you are a teen or know of a teen who does not have access to certain books because of the school system or the town that they are in, please check that out. I think that's amazing work that the Brooklyn Public Library is doing. So thank you. Thank you. And bless librarians around the world who are working to continue to share books and keep language and stories going. All right, I have another 5-star book to tell you about. This is by a trans author. The book is The Map of Salt and Stars by Zain Jukadar, who is non-binary and uses he, him, or they pronouns. They are a Syrian-American writer and the recipient of the 2021 Stonewall Book Awards and Lambda Literary Awards for transgender fiction for a different book, The 30 Names of Night. So I haven't read that one yet, but it's on my TBR. But this is The Map of Salt and Stars. This is a gorgeously told story, heart-wrenching in many places, but it's told in dual timelines. In the contemporary storyline, it starts in summer of 2011, where the father of our protagonist, Noor, has died of cancer, and so the mother moves the family from New York back to Syria. Noor is the only sibling that was born in the US, and the rest of the family is born in Syria. And they're living in Syria and grieving and wrestling what it means to have lost her father. One of the things that was a really powerful bond between her and her father was his storytelling. And there's a particular story that was her favorite. And so at the beginning of the book, she finds the fig tree and is telling the story to the fig tree and to the earth, in the hopes that the story will connect through the earth to his grave over in New York and keep them connected, even though they're now separated by death and distance. This story then becomes our second timeline. The second timeline is over 800 years earlier, when a young girl, Rawia, is 16. She's the daughter of a widow. Her brother has gone off to the sea to try to make money to support the family, but hasn't come back yet. So she runs off and makes herself an apprentice to a map maker. She disguises herself as a young boy to do so and follows this map maker on his adventures as he goes to try to create a comprehensive map of the world. Then we come back to the more present day storyline, and we see that the city in Syria is starting to experience the protests and the shelling of the unrest of that time. Noor's home is destroyed, and so she and her family and a family friend all flee the city and are trying to find some place of safety. The story then is beautifully told in narrating the journey of Rawia, the young mapmaker's apprentice from 800 years ago, following pretty much the same geographical path that Noor and her family take as they flee violence and try to find safety for the family. Both storylines had really difficult parts to get through. I think for me particularly, the contemporary storyline was difficult, and seeing the challenges that a refugee family is facing trying to get to some place of safety. I think particularly knowing that that is not a distant past sort of story, but a very real fact for millions of families around the globe. It was hard to read sometimes because I just felt disheartened. There was also some experiences in the older timeline where we saw some of the ways that humans treat one another that is violent and unkind. And, I think the author and the characters grapple with a lot of the same questions that I struggle with. And actually, one of the reasons then I give this a 5-star is in how it all came together. There were definitely parts that were sad and ripped my heart out, but my heart was still together at the end. There was still hope and kindness and love and a way forward, which I think for me is important. I need there to be some way to have us keep going and keep living and in the midst of this violence and so forth. So definitely recommend this book. There isn't necessarily queer characters in the book, although both of the young female protagonists at different times then dress as young boys for their own safety or for opportunity for, to make a living as a map maker's apprentice, for example. But I think this was a really good and valuable book, and I hope you'll pick it up. I wanted to pause and take a moment to lift up my t-shirt that I just got. This is the last of the shirts that I treated myself for Trans Day of Visibility. I kind of went and got a couple shirts to celebrate. This one is Imago Dei, and it's in the trans flag colors, and it's Imago Dei means image of God, and is an expression that is used in a variety of ways, including saying that we are made in the image of God. We are worthy of rights and dignity and love. And so I just wanted to lift that up and say that absolutely trans people are made in the image of God and are beautiful and whole and fabulous. I'll include a link down below if you're interested in getting this shirt. It is a fundraiser through Bonfire that has the funds go to the National Center for Transgender Equality. So I love all of the creative ways that people are coming up with to support and share the love of the trans community. Thank you all. It's beautiful. And I cling to that in the midst of other stuff that we see around the world. So keep doing it. All right, we're on to my last book. And that is one that I wound up buying my own physical copy after I attended a reading with some local folks here in my community. And this is Corpus Christi, a play by Terrence McNally. And this is written in 97, first performed in 1998, and is the story of Jesus's life and crucifixion from the perspective if he were a gay man and his disciples were all gay men in 1990s Corpus Christi, Texas, facing a lot of the homophobia that they do there. One of the powerful pieces in the foreword here is a reflection on how the author is struck by the similarity between Jesus and his crucifixion and the death of Matthew Shepard. So he had talked about how the cast and crew were feeling pretty good about resisting many protests to get this thing put on the stage in New York, and that at the same time Matthew Shepard was losing his life. I'll just read to you this paragraph. All Corpus Christi, the play, asks of you is to look at what they did to him. Look at what they did to him. At the same time, it asks you to look at what they did to Joshua, or the character for Jesus. It asks that we take a look at what they did one cold October night to a young man in Wyoming as well. Jesus Christ died again when Matthew Shepard did. Look, remember, weep if you will, but learn, and don't let it happen again. And what I found really powerful about this was as we read the play together in this group and picturing the ways that we continue to see homophobia and violence played out, the way we continue to see transphobia and racism and violence played out as people lose their lives are beaten, and so forth. So I found this really powerful, but I also really appreciated how it was written. There were pieces that were funny. There were pieces that, for folks who grew up in certain cultures, they would really recognize the other characters. Definitely don't worry about this being a religious text. There is sex and swearing and Jesus as a gay man with lovers, and it was definitely protested by many, many people over the years that it was performed. And if it's still being performed, which it may be, I'm guessing it would still piss people off. So there's also something in that. I also saw a tweet this week that for me resonated with why this story doesn't bother me as a Christian. I mean, there's lots of reasons why it doesn't bother me, but one of the tweets that I saw was a quote from Pastor Jackie Lewis, who was at some conference, and she was quoted as saying, "If we're going to be Christian, our faith must be the disruption of empire and whiteness." And that really resonates with me and my understanding of myself as a Christian. And I think that empire presents itself in a variety of ways, including an enforcement of gender norms and patriarchy and white supremacy and so forth. So I think that this very much helps challenge that. And so I think it is a beautiful and powerful work. And I commend it to you. And I give this one 5 stars. All right, those are my 4 books for this Queer Shout Out book review for you for April. Thank you for watching. Please let me know if you've read any of these in the comments below, or if you have any suggestions of books I should review for future shout out videos. I'd love to continue the conversation. Please feel free to like and subscribe if this content is interesting to you. And thank you again for all of the ways that you are just being awesome in the world. And I'm wishing you love and hope and courage and joy.